Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, in the previous lecture, we have talked about the recalling section of the exercise. We have discussed 11 questions. Now I am going to move on towards the interpreting section, which has two questions, question 12 and 13. So kindly open your books on page 199. I have discussed this part, recording section, and I told you that most of your answers are directly given in the text. But a good way to answer these questions is that you should answer them in your own words. Bring in your own ideas also, give your contextual answers, and one thing more, try to aid example from your common daily life. This will boost a lot, of course, this will have a very good impression on an examiner, and definitely you will get more good marks. Anyways, interpreting section. I told you in interpreting section we do not have direct answers given at the book. So what you are supposed to do, that you have to keep this knowledge that we have discussed in the text of this lesson at your background, and then you are going to answer the question from your own. You are going to use your own words, your own ideas, right? Look at the difference in these questions. You will definitely see a striking difference between recalling section and interpreting section. Question number 12. What are the adverse effects on society when women are maltreated? This is a very holistic question. It is not asking you that what is the number of population or what is the number of population of women in the world or in Pakistan. These type of questions are not being asked in this section, and the reason is you are going to interpret. So it's a broader question, and the question is, what are the adverse effects of gender inequality on the society? This idea has been discussed throughout the lesson. What you are supposed to do is that you are going to squeeze those paragraphs, take their topic sentences, use them in your own words, and answer the question. So, for example, if they ask this question from you, you can answer this question that there are a number of adverse effects of gender inequality when women are maltreated, not only in a few fields, but which has already been mentioned in your book. There are so many others. For example, the topmost reason is that if you maltreat a woman, first of all, you are not going to have an educated society. This thing is for sure. If women are not educated, don't consider this society or country an educated country or a society. Definitely, you need to have equal education for women also. Next thing is, you will have less opportunity, less job opportunity, of course. And there are also possibilities that the main force, the workforce that you are going to need to make progress as a whole, as a country, that will be extremely affected by this thing if women are maltreated. Education, health, all these sectors are going to suffer. For example, how health will suffer? Health sector will suffer in a way that, for example, if there are no female doctors, or if the number of female doctors are quite short, what will happen? First of all, there will be extreme rush on those areas wherever we have these female doctors. Second of all, most of these women will suffer. Most of the family members, they will not take their women to male doctors, and they are going to suffer at their homes. Third issue is, so definitely when they are going to suffer, we will have more mortality rate during childbirth. We will have more mortality rate during all these diseases that we have around, right? So health sector, look at education. For example, we have a small number of educated women. Definitely most of your male kids or female kids, they will drop out of the school quite early because they don't have that environment at homes. They don't know the importance of education. They don't know how extremely important it is for a person to be educated. So if all these things are, if for example women are maltreated in this situation, definitely we are going to suffer as a country or as a society. Question number 13. Do women deserve to be given due share in inheritance? This question is a little bit straightforward, but why did they ask this question? They asked this question because this is a very common practice. This is a very grave concern which needs to be addressed, and this issue is quite common almost everywhere in most of the developing countries, that we do not give the share that women deserve in the inheritance. the father dies. When the father dies, what the brothers, most of the times, what they used to do, they used to divide all the property among themselves. They don't give the due share, to their sisters, which is really bad. Of course, I mean, the religion gave them this right. The constitution provide or preserve these rights of women. They should be given that portion that they deserve that. That is their due right. So the question is quite direct, and you can answer it. Of course, women should be given their due share in the property of their fathers, in the properties of their brothers. Of course, they deserve a proper share in that, and this is really important. This is important because if you give this due share to your sister in your property, she will have a little bit independence. She will not be completely dependent or at the mercy of her husband. She will have something of her own also, which can later on be a very good support to her later in her life, of course. So inheritance is extremely a less discussed issue in our society. It should be discussed, and it should be provided to the women. I hope you understood the question. So you might have seen the difference between interpreting section and recalling section. Now I'm going to talk about the last section, that is extending, and we have one question here, question number 14. Look at on the same page, 199. Question 14. There are religious as well as national laws about the rights of women. Of course, we have laws. It does not mean, for example, if there is an issue, most of the time it does not mean that we don't have a law for that. There is the law, but the problem is that we do not implement the law. There is no implementation of the law. So next part of the question is extremely important. How can these laws be enforced? The constitution talk about the right of women. Islamic laws are also present. Sharia law. Sharia preserve the rights of women. They definitely acknowledge the share of women in the inheritance. But how can these laws be enforced? First of all, you need to have an educated society. If you have educated society, I as a brother will definitely acknowledge that I have to provide the due share of my sister, right? I have to provide that to her. Next thing is, the sisters, they will also have this knowledge, this this sense in them that we have our share in this in this property of our father. So definitely they will have also that sense in them. And when you have an educated society, everybody knows their limits, their rights and their duties. So at the very basic level, we will have no issues. But if we have this issue even then these laws are supposed to be enforced by the government. But this responsibility of the government comes later. First of all, it is my responsibility as an educated man that I should, provide this specific share to my sister or my daughter, right? Then it comes the responsibility of the government to make it sure and to ensure the enforcement of the law through judiciary, right? And these laws should be more, they should be propagated. Women should know that these are their powers, these are their rights that has been preserved by the law of the land, right? So these are some of the things that should be kept in mind. These should be addressed in order to enforce these laws, right? So it's a very common practice in developing countries that we have the law, but the problem is we don't enforce these laws. There is no proper proper mechanism for the enforcement of these laws. So if a law is present and it is not going to be implemented, it is useless, of course. It is not only useless, but this is a sheer negligence of the authorities, right? So anyways, that was all about the exercise. I hope you have understood the lesson well. It's extremely important. This lesson is important. They used to take so many questions out of it. So please read the text again. I have discussed all these questions. If you have any issue, please comment below. Thank you very much.